The very first thing you need to know about Skillshots is that the character's model is actually at the bottom, which is why we should always hit the feet, as weird as that sounds. No matter where you are, always aim for the bottom of the enemy champion. That's going to avoid this, and this. So this brings us to the question, how far can we take it? Literally like this far. See those centimeters? Hell yeah. This is why you're always going to have an easier time landing abilities when it's vertical rather than when it's horizontal. But long story short, aiming for the feet will get you the yeet. So keeping that in mind, let's move on to our mindset when it comes to landing a skill shot. You might be thinking, it's just pure aim, and if you miss, well, you're just trash, all the better. Part of that is true. A part of it is you're not brainwashing the enemy to forget about your skill shot. Think of it like this. When an enemy is looking at you, they're fully focused on your skill shot. So they're constantly spending time to try and dodge and actively thinking about it. But when they have to do that and try the last hit, it becomes extremely hard for them to put 100% brain power to both. And this applies to anything. They could be hitting your ADC or hitting a ward, and that could be a skill shot timing. The trick to this is to wait specifically for their auto animation, but also be in a position where you can land the skill reliably, rather than just trying to hit them while they're walking aimlessly. Holding your abilities will make it a guaranteed land when they're distracted or least expected. Let's look at an example. If you watch this Orianna and I asked you, what will she do next? What would you say? If you said something like, I don't know, or she'll walk up to poke, or she'll run out of my range, then you're kind of correct in all the senses. She has so many options from this position that it will be difficult to gauge which option she'll actually take. This is what I call the random jitter jatters of laning phase. It's when people just aimlessly or intentionally move erratically to confuse enemies and make it harder to land skill shots. This is very different to the very obvious and linear pathing of a person who is trying to last hit minions. So why would you not go for this timing? And last but not least, another added benefit of this concept is that you get the maximum value for your mana, meaning you're going to find that you don't have mana problems nearly as much as you used to. Now if that doesn't convince you to hold your abilities for certain timings, I don't know what will. Okay, so let's talk about concept 2, baiting out skill shots. Now you might be wondering why I'm talking about how to avoid enemies' abilities in a guide about skill shots. But hear me out. When you go up to fight an enemy champion, you're often worried about the skill shots, taking away brain power to focus on landing your own. Now if you take away that part of the equation, you end up with the ability to take up an aggressive posture and confidently land a skill shot at point blank, or just at a closer distance. So let's look at this in game. First you need to assess the enemy's range. That could be a Leona E, a Thresh hook, or in this case, Orianna Q. Then what you want to do is picture this range as a red line that you're going to walk over constantly. The pattern of movement should look something like this. What you're essentially doing is making them think that they can hit you for a short period of time, but in reality, you're already ready to dodge that skill shot before it comes out. Then comes the second part of this play. Once you've baited out that skill shot, they're one ability down. That means I'm happy to go face to face and trade with all three of my abilities, as I know I will win that trade. This way I'm not concerned with their ability to poke me back because they didn't have it in the first place. It sounds obvious, but having confidence in your skill shot is key to actually landing it in the first place. You can't be wishy-washy and expect to land everything. Now once you've gained back your confidence and feel good about landing your skill shots, it's time to move on to concept 3. Patience and mind games. You shouldn't always just throw your ability at them without any thought and rely on pure mechanics. Give them 1-2 seconds to see what they'll do. If they start dodging frantically, then you might be able to just auto them or walk up to them. Depending on your champion, you can actually do a lot with this. For example, with Nami, you can walk up and auto with Empowered E. Not only does this slow them, it does damage and sets your Q really nicely. Another trick you can do is to walk one way, then shoot the other. It might seem really pointless, but even slightly shifting your character to the right and then shooting left can trick the enemy into thinking you're going to aim that way. This goes hand in hand with faking, since it's basically the same as doing a feint in a sport. And similar to this, instead of running straight at an enemy to shoot a skill shot, always try to edge up before you actually shoot the skill shot. Try and get as close as you can without just running at them. You want to do this by walking sideways, then a bit closer, and then sideways again, and at any point you feel comfortable, go for a cheeky skill shot. It's very different to someone who is just running at you and telegraphing that they're going to try and shoot an ability at you. Playing it like this puts imaginary pressure on the enemy. They have to be prepared at any moment if you might shoot a skill shot, and even if they aren't, they're putting themselves at risk of getting hit by a skill shot in the first place. Now this last one's a bit underrated, or might seem super obvious, but it's terrain. Any skilled player or gamer with a brain will realize that once the enemy is up against the wall, they essentially lose one way to dodge. This limits them to only having 1 or 2 ways out, since they can't just run at you. That's why all these corner spots are really good for us when we're trying to land an ability. If you can, you want to avoid using abilities early so that you can use it at a choke point where they're forced to pick one direction and bend the environment to your favor. Even just using the edges of the map to your advantage can make it really easy to land abilities, because they're very limited in where they can move, especially if you angle it like this. Just remember that the hitbox isn't that small, so you don't even need to aim at them, but if you give it some space, it'll make it that much harder to get out of the skill shot's trajectory. Guys, if you learned something from this video, go subscribe and comment down below what was the most useful thing here. Catch you later.